Now to this last of the week council meeting. There are 4 of us here. We are expecting Councilmember Rogers, I think, at some point, and Councilmember Kitchen and Fowler are in Washington, D.C. for the National League of Cities Conference. So we'll excuse them and thank Councilmember Luke for deciding to forego that conference in order to be here for this meeting today. Our city suffered...
I am on the phone here.
Oh, and Councilmember Kitchen, you're here. Thank you. He's
You're
here
welcome.
on audio. Thank you for getting to DC safely and being able to call in.
My honor.
Councilmember Fowler is on an airplane, where I'm being told. Our city suffered a major casualty this week. It's what feels like an amputation to me at this point. As the land use authority for the city council, we're convening today with a list of concerns that is too long for me to even begin as an introduction here right now, but that in no way isn't most based upon the foundational violations of land use authority being taken away from this city for 20,000 acres of our total city acreage. Tax increment potential for those 20,000 acres in Salt Lake City. The loss of almost $500 million in tax increment opportunity for our schools in Salt Lake City over the coming 25 years. And a loss to our public libraries, a loss to every city function that can be supported by the kind of growth that almost a quarter of our city is being taken away from us. The bill that was passed is far worse than any bill we had contemplated and leaves us with a fine-tooth comb and lots of work to do to examine the reality of the impacts of what has happened. We've talked about having city council meetings after a major earthquake. What would it be like to have to come together and make the kind of decisions that the council would have to make under that kind of a emergency scenario? And today I feel the same sense of trauma to our city. So we actually come together mostly to hear today from our attorneys. And so I'm going to look for a motion from one of my peers for us to exit into a closed session.
Madam Chair, go ahead. Prior to making that motion, can I just add to something that you've said so eloquently? So thank you for your comments. I think that it's also important to realize that the actions that took place this session, not only does it harm Salt Lake City's ability to effectively manage and effectively govern our city, but when we already have 43% of our city that is tax exempt, we have very little flexibility to move our budgeting money around. When we look at the areas of potential growth for Salt Lake City, those areas of growth are going to be on the west side in the northwest quadrant that are included in these boundaries, where we now have zero of the tax increment potential that is going to be out there. So what the actions, I think, have done that I don't think we've stated really, it's not only hurt the city, but it's really put more pressure on the residents of Salt Lake City, the state tax-paying residents of Salt Lake City, who are going to continue to shoulder much of the burden of dealing with the responsibilities that we have because of our already incredibly high percentage of land that is tax exempt in this city. This action is unfair to our tax-paying city residents. and I don't think that we can state that enough. And I think your earthquake analogy is being very polite. I think this is the long-term potential damage of this legislation is immense. So I wanted to say that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. Any other comments before we exit? Councilmember Johnston, did you want to make a motion?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I like to move that we move into closed session for the purpose of discussing matters, attorney-client matters that are privileged.
I have a motion by Councilmember Johnston, a second by Councilmember Luke. I'm going to start with Councilmember Kitchen.
Yes.
Councilmember Luke. Yes. Councilmember Wharton.
Can I, sorry, just personal privilege, briefly clarify that it's for imminent litigation?
Do we need to clarify that, or can we go under?
Yeah, I think we do.
Both? Okay.
Okay, thanks. I just saw Margaret being worried for...
And does our motion and our second accept that friendly amendment?
We do.
Okay, then Kitchen, you're still a yes?
Yes.
Luke, Wharton,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
And before you close,
Before we close,
Councilmember James Rogers will be calling in, so he will probably enter the phone call while you're in executive session, so
And-
the record could reflect that.
okay, will do. If you know you aren't invited to this executive session, then please exit and we will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.